The cold wind swept across the lonely ranch as Ethan Carson stood on his porch, watching the empty field where memories of his late wife still lived. 6 years had passed, yet every shadow at sunset reminded him of the laughter that once warmed these wooden walls. Now the ranch felt too big, too silent, as if every room echoed with the weight of what he had lost. Tonight, as the sky dimmed, the silence felt heavier, almost like someone else's sorrow was drifting across the valley toward him. Not far away, at the edge of the pine forest, Helena Crow stood on the balcony of her solitary cabin. Known throughout the region as the Giant Widow, not for cruelty but simply for her striking height and powerful presence, she carried her grief like a shield. Since her husband's death 2 years ago, her strength had grown, but so had the hollowness behind it. She worked her land alone, fought storms alone, and convinced herself that solitude was safer than risking another heartbreak. Still, something in the fading sky stirred a quiet longing she had ignored for too long. Their worlds collided one evening when Ethan discovered his cattle had broken through the weakened fence again. Expecting to find them grazing by the creek, he followed their tracks only to see them wandering near Helena's barn. He dismounted carefully as Helena stepped outside, dust on her sleeves from working. Few people approached her land, yet Ethan offered a polite nod, his calm voice carrying no fear. "Ma'am, looks like my cattle wandered your way," he said. Helena crossed her arms, her eyes filled not with anger but exhaustion. "They broke my garden rail," she replied. Ethan inspected the damage and immediately offered to fix it, surprising her with his sincerity. She agreed, struck by the unusual gentleness in his tone. As Ethan repaired the rail, Helena watched from the doorway. She noticed the heaviness in his movements, the way he worked with deliberate focus, as if fixing something outside soothed something inside. "You work like someone who's lost something," she murmured. Ethan paused and answered quietly, "Someone." Helena understood that pain all too well. When the fence was secure, Helena unexpectedly invited him inside for water. Her cabin was warm, scented with pine and old leather, but filled with traces of a life once shared. Ethan noticed the untouched boots, the empty second chair, and Helena's gaze dropped. "I keep things the way they were," she whispered. Ethan nodded gently. "Makes it feel like they're still close." A fragile connection formed between them, two broken hearts quietly recognizing each other. As he prepared to leave, thunder rolled across the mountains. Helena hesitated, then said, "Stay until the storm passes." It was the first time she'd asked anyone to stay in years. Inside, with rain pounding the roof, they sat quietly at her small table. Helena's nerves betrayed her, but Ethan eased the tension. "You don't have to talk. Quiet is enough," he said kindly. Lightning illuminated the cabin as Helena confessed, "People think I'm harsh, difficult." Ethan met her gaze. "People talk because they don't know the truth." When she asked what he believed, he replied softly, "I think you're carrying more than most could handle." "Strength scares people." His words warmed something fragile inside her. Trying to hide her sudden emotion, Helena rose quickly. "I need to make love. Don't move," she blurted, then froze in horror. She had meant to say she needed to make the fire. Ethan blinked, then burst into warm laughter. Helena turned crimson. "I meant the fire," she insisted. Ethan helped her gather wood without teasing her, and as the fire came alive again, she felt a warmth far deeper than the flames. They sat beside the hearth, shoulders almost touching, silence soft and comforting. For the first time since her husband died, Helena didn't feel alone. As the storm softened into a steady rain, Helena opened up about her grief. Ethan listened without judgment. "Strength isn't shutting everyone out," he said softly. "Sometimes the strongest thing is letting someone sit beside you." His words cut through years of self-built walls. A sudden crash outside drew them from the quiet moment. A fallen tree had smashed part of Helena's shed. Without hesitation, Ethan worked alongside her in the rain, their teamwork natural and steady. Their hands brushed once, sending a warm current through Helena's chest. Inside again, soaked and shivering, Helena surprised herself by laughing, truly laughing. Ethan told her it suited her, and she blushed shyly. They shared tea, and Helena admitted, "Most men don't stay this long." Ethan replied gently, "Most men don't understand what it feels like to lose half your world." She felt her heart shift, lightening in ways she hadn't felt in years. When Ethan said he should leave, Helena's voice trembled. Stay. He asked softly if she wanted him to stay out of loneliness or trust. Because I trust you, she whispered. Tonight, I feel alive again. Ethan closed the door, choosing to stay not from obligation but connection. They sat closer this time, their shoulders touching. Ethan placed his hand over hers. You don't have to be strong every second, he murmured. Tears gathered in Helena's eyes, not of pain, but release. She confessed her embarrassment from earlier, and Ethan laughed kindly. I knew it wasn't what you meant, he said. She admitted she craved connection again. Warmth, life, someone who saw her. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I see you, he whispered. Not the giant, not the widow, just Helena. She rested her forehead against his, the fire crackling softly. The world felt distant, washed clean by the storm. Dawn arrived with golden light, and they stepped outside together. Ethan offered to return, help her repair everything, keep her company. I'd like that, she said, her smile warm and genuine. When he rode away, Helena felt no fear, only the anticipation of his return. She realized healing didn't always come like lightning. Sometimes it arrived quietly, in the form of a kind rancher fixing a fence and reminding her she was still worthy of love. Days later, Ethan returned, not out of duty but affection. They worked together, laughed together, and slowly, their hearts stitched themselves back to life. The valley no longer felt empty to Ethan, and Helena no longer felt like a lonely giant. They became a pair rooted in strength, compassion, and new beginnings. When Helena slipped her hand into his, both knew they had found something precious, not a replacement for what they lost, but a second chance at love.